All right, so this week is a special week because it's not only, it's going to be Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, and also it's the fourth Torah portion that is specially added in the weeks leading up to Pesach. Sometime between Purim and Pesach, there are extra Torah portions that are added. So Parshas Hachodesh, Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, we've actually done it before because it was Hanukkah, was the last time of Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, and it's the same Torah reading that's said for it. So we'll just go through it pretty quickly. It just talks about the sacrifices that are offered. So it says, in general on Shabbos, the Shabbos offering is going to be 2 unblemished 1-year-old lambs and 2/10 an ephah of flour with a half a hin of oil. These are obviously measurements. Okay, and then it's got to be offered up on Shabbos. This is an olah, an ascent offering. And each Shabbos it has to be offered up. You can't make up for Shabbos if it's missed. You got to offer it up on that Shabbos. On Rosh Chodesh is the first day of the month, of the new month. There's an olah offering, and it's 2 young bulls, 1 ram, 7 1-year-old lambs, all unblemished. With the bull is going to be 3/10 an ephah of fine flour, a half a hin of oil. With the ram, there's going to be 2/10 an ephah of fine flour and a third of a hin of oil. And with the lamb is going to be a 1/10 ephah of fine flour and a 1/4 hin of oil. Also with the bull is going to be half a hin of wine. With the ram, it's going to be a third a hin of wine, and with the lamb, it's going to be a 1/4 hin of wine. Basically, there's a lot going on there. A lot of sacrifices, a lot of libations, stuff going on. And also there's going to be a young male goat that's going to be offered up as a karban chatas, which is a sin offering. And as with Shabbos, on Rosh Chodesh, these sacrifices have to be offered up on the first day of the month. It's something that can be pushed off or that you could make up for if it's missed. So that, in short, that's Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. Now, Parshas Hachodesh, this is always read on the Shabbos before the first day of the month of Nisan, or if it's the first day of the month of Nisan. So this Shabbos, the first day of the month of Nisan, you're going to see multiple Torahs going to be taken out for this. So this actually goes back to, it's actually part of something that we've done before because it's part of the book of Shmos. So it talks about when the Jewish people were still in Egypt and Hashem told Moshe and Aaron, the first of Nisan, right? It's about sunset, it's about getting dark in Mitzrayim, and he says the renewal, right? The new moon. This is the new month. When you see the moon look like this, right? Now you know that it's a new month, and this month in particular, the month of Nisan, is going to be the first month of all the years. So the Jewish calendar, Nisan, when you count the months, as in which month is number 1, 2, 3, 4, you start from the month of Nisan. Nisan is considered month number 1. The new year, however, occurs in the month of Tishrei, which is actually the 7th month, because that's when creation occurred. So this is how the Jewish calendar works. Now, the Hashem told Moshe and Aaron, back to Moshe and Aaron and Hashem in Egypt. So Hashem said, the Jewish people have been in a not great spiritual state all the years they've been in exile and they've been enslaved. So I'm going to give them 2 mitzvahs now that's going to make them fully worthy of redemption. One mitzvah was going to be the Pesach sacrifice, the Paschal lamb, and the other is going to be a bris, right? So because in order to eat from the Paschal lamb, all the men had to be circumcised. So anyone who, for whatever reason, hadn't had a bris yet, had to have a bris before they could partake of the Karban Pesach. And they have to partake of the Karban Pesach. This is the big mitzvah now. So this time he said on the 10th of the month, so on the 10th of Nisan, the Jewish family should select the lamb or the kid, right? It's going to be within a year old, and that's going to be the karban that's going to be offered up on the 14th of the month, because Pesach starts on the 15th of the month, so the sacrifice has to be happening before that. If you could only imagine what's going on in the Beis HaMikdash, there were thousands and thousands of people bringing a Karban Pesach, and it was massive shifts that they would just non-stop, because you could have just come in on the 9th and just say, oh, I'm bringing the Karban Pesach now. So you can imagine it was a massive operation going on here. So in this particular, the first time Hashem commanded it, he said the 10th of the month you need to select the animal. In the future, you don't necessarily have to select on the 10th of the month, but the 14th you got to bring the sacrifice. In this particular case, he's giving them 4 days to kind of break their attachment to idolatry, because the Jewish people were sunk in spiritual not goodness. So I'm going to give them 4 days to try to break away from that. And you're going to have one man who's going to be represents the household. And it could be multiple households joined together because you got to eat the whole lamb. So each person has to eat about 1 ounce worth of meat. So if it's a small family, they could combine with other family units. And if it's a particularly large family, right, it's a large extended family, and not everyone's going to be able to eat 1 ounce worth, then you're going to have to split it up. You're going to have to break into smaller family units so that everyone can eat that amount. Also, a kid is not necessarily going to eat like an ounce of meat, so they're not necessarily counted within this. So you got to it's going to be an unblemished male lamb or a kid, right? A kid goat, and watch over it, make sure that nothing happens to it in the 4 days, right? It's got to remain unblemished. And on the afternoon of the 14th day, leading up to Pesach, that's where you're going to shecht it. And then you got to collect the blood, right? And you got to put it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel of the house where you're going to be eating this, where you're going to be celebrating, where you're going to be eating, right? And you got to eat it roasted over fire. It can't be half cooked and it can't be boiled. And you got to eat it with matzah and maror. And anything that gets left over, by the way, has to be burnt the next day. This is not, you can't leave over. You're not supposed to leave it over any of this. How do you have to eat it? It says, eat it with your waist belted, with your shoes on your feet, with your staff in your hand. Eat it in haste. Be ready to travel. This is it. We are going, right? And on that night, God says, I'm going to pass through Egypt, and I'm going to, punish the gods, but I'm going to strike down the firstborn. There's going to be retribution on their so-called gods, right? The wooden idols were going to rot, and the metal ones were going to melt. And it's, I, God myself, I will come, not a messenger will come. And I'm going to see the blood on the doorpost, and I will pass over the doorpost. And hey, that's where we get the name from. This day, the 15th of Nisan, should be a remembrance. It's going to be a festival to God, an eternal statue forever and always for all the generations. How do you celebrate it? 7 days. Eat matzah from the 15th to the 21st. In exile, in the diaspora, we celebrate to the 22nd. On the 14th day, by the 14th day, make sure you clear your house of all leavening agents, all leaven and all leavening agents. Whether someone is born into the tribe or someone converts into the tribe, these laws apply. And it's actually a very severe punishment for someone who, God forbid, eats leaven, who has chametz on Pesach. It's called kares, and it's like excision, that either they could, God forbid, die young or die childless or something like that. It's a very severe punishment. And the first, and then, so we have the 7 days that's for the 7 days of Pesach. The 1st and the 7th are holy days. Don't work. The only thing you're allowed to do is kind of food prep. And also be very vigilant over the matzahs. Make sure they don't rise. And this is the section of Parshas Hachodesh that we read in the lead up to the 1st of Nisan, lead up to Pesach.